Okay, here's hoping that this goes well with my near complete lack of prep. So, did I go and add those chapters and sort my prior video? No. Did I have a specific plan for this before starting it, other than, oh hey, I made a new build for the new contest, so maybe we should show that as well as the backlog of art builds? No. Do I be big brain and look at fixing the audio issues or the network issues or the background noise issues, or like just recording and skipping most of those and then uploading the video? Considered it, didn't do those either, since people are hopping on in an hour and I have some other IRL things to do. So this is going to be a, knowing me, not quick, but it's going to at least be a dirty build overview, because essentially we just got the new Clash of Engineers, and I thought, wow, this is not terrible, it's a pretty decent build, why not give it a go? So at least I can also knock down a bit of the backlog and, you know, as per usual, maybe inspire people with this contest, and also maybe scare them off from doing what they were planning on doing if it's like identical to what I have, potentially. So, yeah, we'll start with the Clash of Engineers build just because it's one of my garage and relevant. So, exhibition, Clash of Engineers, they announced it. There's the one set of rules here, and then if you want to be selected and maybe get coins, there's a second set of rules, which includes needing to be within a certain power score, not having parts other than decorations higher than epic, and then they copy pasted the normal thing, like, you know, be it's case sensitive and only one entry, which is weird because this check system implies that they're looking at the regular exhibition, but they're not, because that's normally how it goes, is you either post it to the regular exhibition with a tag, or you throw it up in the special exhibition, in which case, like, you still can include the name, but I'm pretty sure it's not necessary. Likewise, it really shouldn't resemble a car if we're rebuilding the Step Spider pack, but yeah, should be okay otherwise. So yeah, they're giving out another untradeable version of a decor, which now had its tradable version become untradeable, which is kind of weird. So people are going to keep piling those up so long as they don't, you know, give us alternatives for it. But whatever. So for a little bit of background on me and the spider, so we have the new, thank you phone, very cool. We have the new spider pack, and before this we had the old spider pack, and I don't know that I actually have a way to check this here. Let's see if I can pull it up. No, not you. What was it even called? It wasn't arachnophobia, I think. Arachnophobia. Crossout. So yeah, this pack, which was discontinued, this is the first pack my brother bought. When we got in the game, I got the steel, or not the iron shield, the predecessor. But in any case, the Step Spider at that point was a medium cabin with stats closer to being a tank class cabin, which the Carapace was as well as the Nova, which is essentially saying it is a medium class for energy, though it had speed differences, and thus you were able to get the heavier weight. The perk at that point was increased speed with leg parts by 10 kph, and then they changed it a couple times, so it had a couple of cool cosmetics as well, but that's why it was running legs and running auto cannons, even though that doesn't do anything for the Step Spider nowadays, which is why they're replacing the pack. So likewise, the revamp included some new decor, but was still running auto cannons. So they're asking us to make a new version of it that, you know, works with the Step Spider perk. Personally, I'm of the thought process they should maybe just revert the perk, all the changes they did to it, and then release another cabin that, you know, has this, but whatever. And then of course, as a result, the price probably went up a little bit. Yeah, that's funny how it went so far down and then back up. But pack sale, contest, so its price is kind of equalized. I mean, as you can see, that used to be a hell of a lot cheaper, but now it's actually incredibly good, arguably overpowered for rocket launchers, because it gives you bonuses in every category other than damage, and the Dusk only gives you a bonus in damage and then negatives in all of these. Makes it really hard to want to use. Whereas beforehand, when it was some trade-offs, it was usable. So in any case, my old... Let's see if we have long as list. So I did have a old spoder build, and I gave a variant of it to my brother, but that's what he's running. So auto cannons, bunch of legs, engine on the front, but not very spidery, as you can see. So this contest was kind of a way for me to actually go and make a actual spider. So that's what I did. So keeping in mind the restrictions for the power score and parts, I ran these. Obviously, you wouldn't have everything being like ideally upgraded or upgraded at all if it's included in a pack. So I left enough extra mass so that you can, you know, do that. To start with, I looked at the feasibility of how many spider legs we'd need based off of my prior spreadsheet. So I was looking at using 6 with the Geagle, because that way if you get a mass fused cabin and or grizzly, then you'd be able to use 6 legs. And I did have 6 legs on here, but then I was kind of poking around with it a little bit more, and the length of it was a little awkward. So normally I talk about being, you know, a power of 2 divisible by 2 for all your pieces and lengths, but in this case I actually went with 10 long for the frame, and thus that allowed me to fit 2 legs on each side in addition to the 2 front and back. So 8 legs, which is, I mean, it doesn't maybe look like it from here, but since they automatically splay, a lot more spidery, methinks, with the 8, as well as the like it ending up balancing a little bit better. So beforehand I just had the leg here, so I had 6 legs. So again, with the Colossus, with the cabin, with Grizzly potentially having enough max mass for the tonnage of 6 Gerda, but this ended up working a little bit easier just for fitting everything I needed underneath. So as far as the actual like viability of this, I think it should honestly be okay. The weapons are tucked behind the cabin, as well as one can do with these weapons, and then I have a trombone to theoretically double the damage. Further, the actual selection of it seems incredibly unlikely, because not only do I have quite a smattering of different battle pass / pack only items or like prestige parts, so it seems pretty unlikely. Like, they'd probably be okay with giving you all the badge exchange parts, but this is a not insignificant amount of the Steppenwolf inventory for level up. This is from Scavenger's Prestige, and then this is from Firestarter's Prestige and Lunatic's Prestige. So they've done it before, but I wouldn't be holding my breath for it. On top of that, it has 8 frickin' Gerda, so even though they could theoretically get away with quote-unquote giving 6, and it would actually be like a reasonably priced pack at like $60 like they normally do, I really don't think they're going to give you 6 or 8 or even like maybe at the absolute most 4 of them in a pack, because they tend to be money makers for them. But who knows, we'll see, I guess. I also didn't throw on any decor. I am running otherwise just epic and special hardware and weapons, so I don't think that'd be an issue, but it is bumping right up against that power score bracket, and I didn't include any decor. So my thoughts are, if they did decide to use this, which seems unlikely, but I'm not really going for that, I'm mostly going for like the vote wins for the actual contest rewards, then might be looking at swapping out some of those parts for some lower power score ones, and then using the, you know, that on decor instead. But I didn't really feel like I explicitly needed any decor, just from a like efficiency standpoint. I'll normally run 2 flares because they're legendary and thus give me 10 for that. Run 2 holograms and then a horn, and then I'll throw on whatever other decor I think like fits the build. So of course I could have done a bunch of, like, I could have thrown on like Ravager parts, I could have thrown on flags or some of these other untradeable ones just to like flex on people, stuff like that, but I didn't really feel like that was needed for the spider, and again I was bumping right up against that. So likewise, if they did drop the leg amount, they could theoretically shorten the torso, but I felt like this was, I was pretty happy with the size this ended up being as is without having the shortening, and I really don't think they're going to overhaul the build. The point, they probably just pick a different builder, build their own. So as far as the sort of interesting build parts of this, of course we have the quote-unquote bumper, but it's pretty high durability parts. I don't have an issue using it for structural parts. Holding on to the pier lids. So I've done this before too with other builds, so this isn't anything new if you've seen every video on my channel, but I certainly wouldn't fault you for not doing so. But if you flip the pier lids or locust or wasp on their side, you can shoot up and down and minimize the amount of space people can shoot back at them, since of course they're fairly fragile and fixed angle. Then I have another one on this side. It's not actually connected to this pier lid because I can't, you know, flip it the opposite direction, but it worked aesthetically, and this middle, or this right side pier lid can be attached to both the ammo supply, so it's protected with hardware, the trombone, if I rotated the trombone, but I didn't really feel like it was needed, and then anything you put on top. I went with the truck slope. You'd theoretically eke this out a little bit more easily using like the fuselage slope, the 4x2x1, but it ended up interfering with the weapons. If you rotated them, it doesn't physically block the line, but it does block line of sight. So if you're turning, then it could get caught on that. Likewise, you can still have them get caught on these. So in theory, it might be better to run it like that. I didn't realize I was going to blend with the Horo better at the back, so I'll probably leave it like that. So just for reference purposes, we'll flip this around to show you. So if you, oh no, it's not doing it. Well, it was on the one side at least. So I guess it must just be due to the meshes themselves not being symmetrical. So yeah, you can see it got caught on that tip. Thought it had been on that side as well, but I guess not. But if we flip that around, then that's not an issue anymore. And obviously this also slightly increases like people's ability to shoot at them, but I think aesthetically I like that better, even though it's kind of convinced I was going to stick with the form before. Anyway, we got the Horo on the back, big ass thick piece of armor to protect them. Also kind of functions as the, I'm not going to pretend to know the bug parts. I know, like, with a spider, it's supposed to have an abdomen and a thorax, and they're supposed to be, like, fairly obviously split, but neither of the prior packs really did that, and so this one doesn't either. So it's kind of a brick, honestly, but works. We've got the power slide underneath, something a little sneaky. I've got a buggy floor going through it because it is hollow on the inside. In theory, you could have fit another piece underneath, but I didn't. Which lets me attach to the listener, or you could maybe run a keen on the back. No, guess not. I know you could fit the ruby because that's what I had on before, but the listener, a little bit chonkier, and I wasn't hurting for power score that bad that I needed to cut off like 20, so. That, have the engine underneath. The frames are wrapping around. The step spider is kind of awkward because it only has an 8x4 contact area on the bottom. So even though it's physically an 8x6, like, you can hide things, wrap things around those little nooks in the side, and I do on some builds. Didn't this time. And as a result, the frames have to go around that engine. So the reason being, because the power slide hitbox extends partially into this pip, so you can see I can again wrap armor around it, but I can't put the Colossus there longitudinally, so I have to put it sideways or thin the frames on the front even more, which I definitely don't want to do because they're currently already just 2x6s. And then this way I was able to at least get the car jack on the bottom there as well. So yeah, normally I recommend having thicker frames, so like an 8x4, a 6x4, 4x4, something like that, and then, you know, like having the 2x4 on the back just to wrap around the power slide isn't too big of an issue. But in this case, that didn't feel like an option if I wanted to stick with the Colossus engine, which I did. So I do still have at least that redundant frame on the inside there. So even if I lose the front 4 legs, which mine is probably meaning that the match is already done, because, I mean, I would have also taken a lot of cabin damage by that point. Then that 1x6 can still connect those frames on the side to the back, and of course they're 2x8s, so they're fairly decent durability as is as well. Then for all of our hardware, got a little cheeky, just crammed everything in the back, so I was able to fit the discharger on one side, the radio and iris on another, a little small platform there. As an aside, the people were talking about their favorite part on the Reddit sometime in the past month, and like by far it's the small platform or large platform, because it's like anytime I can use a 4x4x1 or a 4x2x1, I could pick higher durability parts like the pipes or the quarter panel, whatever it's called, from Scavengers, because they are higher durability. But the small platform just looks good, always fits, so put that on there. And then I have the ammo supply. I could have theoretically swapped the ammo supply and the car jack to be underneath, but I figured if my underside is already getting lit up, chances are good it's because I'm flipped and have already lost my car jack, so having it there isn't too bad. And this is arguably a little bit safer for the ammo supply. Of course, if anybody manages to hit this, your entire everything on the backside is blowing up, but that's just kind of how it do be sometimes. The couple of gaps there, of course the gaps underneath the step spider on the side, also because I'm using these, there's a little bit of concavity, and we even have nooks here on the front for like headlights or hologram or whatever, but they're really the only part I could find that would fit well for the blending of these APC slanted parts to that. And even then, of course, it's with me missing that middle narrowing on actual spiders, but be how to do. So I guess, like I said, in theory you could swap the ammo supply and the car jack. I don't know how much that would really impact it, because then of course you're also risking having your frames get blown up. But yeah, pretty close to like, well, not perfect, but like almost, like I can't really think of a whole lot more that I could do for improving this build as far as like being spider-like goes, without A, having to refactor it to like have the separate body parts, and or B, specifically balancing for the power scorch. Like I said, I'm not too concerned about winning the 10,000 coins. Like, it'd be nice, but I'm also okay with them not monetizing my work in their game. Like it's a fair trade-off in general, I think, but they're also, their monetization practices are not great sometimes, so I don't necessarily want to contribute to that per se. But yeah, pretty happy with it overall. So we can, let's see, do I really want to swap the... yeah, I think making it like ever so slightly less annoying to use. Oh, is that, did I already update it? No. Yes, because I want to put, not you, but we will get to you because you're one of the other builds I want to talk about. Okay, so yeah, throw that in. Hopefully not get yoinked. Oh, that's right, I got banner and stuff. Oh! Wow, they widened this. I didn't notice that. That's very nice, because before it was super, like, squishy and difficult to scroll down the entire list, but I guess that is no longer the case. That is much better. I like that. Find the siren. There we go. Don't think that it... Yeah, no, see, this is like... It's funny to say, but like the banners feel too large I'd like it if instead when you hovered over it, it like showed the extension with the preview. So like that, but this size, so you can see the details. But as is, it's an extremely like difficult list to like scroll through for a specific thing at a glance. But whatever, be how it do. What are we? Oh, yay for me, I guess. Yeah, so that's that. Not really sure how else I would improve upon it for the 8,000 power score. I mean, for like a actually fighting people viability thing, easy enough. Swap those out for locusts. Probably throw a generator on here, cut off a couple of legs so you save some power score. Wouldn't be like too difficult to do, but again, that's not what the build's for. It's for the contest. So with the extreme unlikelihood of them actually selecting it, it, you know, fits all the criteria. So yeah. As far as the other art builds to go over, they are updates to my power score. Prior tank builds on exhibition. So they've been eating up a couple of slots because I made them a while ago and just haven't updated. So we're looking at really old, like prior to Crossout 2.0, where like they were art builds then, and I had some complaints really about how large this top pseudo turret was, and my lack of using pretty much anything on the underside was. So there's been a lot of updates since like this was. I've upgraded some parts, of course, but also these balancing for energy and power score, mass and tonnage. So the builds, like even just assembling this as is, the current game state is different enough to require a rework, so I figured I might as well just do a complete overhaul for it. Likewise, I had the Fury, which was sort of a World War I-esque version, which was running mixed weaponry, but that was before the Carapace had a perk, and has a perk now, which is only specifically applying to reload weapons. So my attempts at updating this, and then of course it's also, I love what I did with the booty, but it's very long and sticks out. So, plus we didn't have better bumpers at the time, so this dragged on the ground. But like they weren't bad overall, just like it's been, you know, 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. I know I could do better. So what I ended up with is this as a Stampede. So I got my little cryo ducky guy in there now because the elephants are now cryo weapons. I narrowed the top quite a bit, so it now actually looks like a single pseudo, you know, tank hull turret thing. It's not actually, and this is its own thing on top, but I figured it fit the aesthetic of it a little bit better. Managed to make the build less wide, which saved me quite a bit of armor for tucking stuff underneath. And then I no longer had explosives between the cabin and the tracks, so that was, you know, technically a disadvantage, but I was able to do something a little bit interesting with it underneath instead. So we will save. I'll also note that in theory you'd probably want to have like an actual paint job with this, but I just always throw on a single monocolor because I'm lazy like that. So I'm sure people who actually like specifically paint certain parts and sticker stuff up and throw on some decor will probably do better, but I mean at the very least they're not going to be doing so with this specific build because that would be against the rules for copying, and I have it on stream. But yeah, like I said, I think people could do better if they could. I mean, they might run the same weapon setup. Honestly, it's not very like unique of a thought of like, oh, I'll have the weapons there. Like you could also have them on the sides at the back, like on the autocannon versions of the builds, but like 2 pyramids and a trombone and then some hardware for fitting in with the energy without power scores, not like a thought that I don't think anybody else is going to have. But as far as the armoring, if they can get those 2 distinct body parts and then use less like prestige and badge exchange parts, I think they'd probably have a better chance. Anyway, so yeah, beforehand I had enough room to fit the generator and fuel back here. I wasn't super big fan of it because it meant that if I lost a tank truck I was very much at risk, but now they're all underneath, so that, you know, win some lose some there as well. We have the front elephant attached to both radiator bonnets and a buggy floor, so very unlikely to get the mounts destroyed rather than the weapon itself. Fits pretty nicely in the power score, gets the max reputation bonus from decor, and then of course the other one at the back is attached directly to the cabin. So fit the Oyabun on here. I did originally have the hot red, but now we have this, which is more mass, and the perks for the hot red don't really apply, and honestly the Oyabun doesn't as well, but it technically can, so why not? And then of course we get the boost to speed and power anyway at the tank tracks once we're in a certain durability threshold, but it's pretty unlikely that the cabin is going to take damage before I lose one or both of my guns. And the way the like speed works nowadays, and even honestly before the most recent overhaul after the multiple years of overhauls, like plus 10 kph flat to the cabin is large enough for most, especially on tracks which already have their max chassis speed, that you're not going to be able to utilize the full speed of both the tank track at 65 kph without the perk and the tank track at 75 kph with the perk. But like the only thing that can really do that is the Omni box, especially now that we have the the engine speed increase applying to the tracks as well. But in our case we're looking at 70 kph for both the carapace without a speed upgrade and the tracks with the Oyabun. And like I said, really the Omni box, things that can actually shift speed are going to be able to actually utilize that higher cap, unless you're using a higher speed cabin to begin with, in which case you're handicapping yourself with the lower speed of the tank track. And like it's a carapace cabin, it's perfect for tanks. So yeah, we made this I think a little bit prettier, not quite perfect on the front, but my options are either make it like an 8x8 rough outline or make it like 10x8 and then it's an awkward oval size. You can see I kind of did that already on the back, or go to 10x10, which would require me to re-widen it, which I didn't really want to do. So yeah, nothing super crazy with the armoring up here. I don't think I've mentioned it before, but I do have the 6x1x1 part, or 6x1x1 parts I wrap around the Oyabun because like why not. And then for underneath we have some armor, which is honestly not attached as well as it maybe should be, but that's how it is because we actually have the like sacrificial parts on the bottom, which is to say that all of the actual hardware we use, especially because we don't use a whole lot of energy from the engine itself, all of this hardware can stay attached on, as long as nobody blows it up. But we have fuel tank, fuel barrel, ammo, and generator, and they're all attached to rifts, which is to say that we can jettison them at any time. So we can jettison the fuel and the ammo if we are out of ammo and we think we aren't going to be able to win, or without somebody popping our fuel, or if people are actively attacking the fuel. And then the other one is just, well, it's that one, it's for the engine. Sorry, the generator there. So even though some of these parts are physically adjacent to each other, they do not have any other pips with which to attach. So pretty happy with how that worked out. So I can remove just the generator if I lose one of my guns. And I can remove that extra ammo and the fuel otherwise. So very happy with how that worked out. Tried it a couple of times. I mean, like in PvP, using a carapace at 9k is just generally not a good call. It's an option, sure, but it performs about as well as you'd expect with the current meta. And I mean, the meta for the past 2-3 years has really just been strip or be stripped, insta-kill or be killed. So like nothing new there with any of that. So I'll go over the parts list real quick here, just so you can see for decor specifically. hitting that 25. We're running the few parts on the back there, which get really jittery in this screen apparently. And then we have our hologram, which is tucked underneath our duck. We have our little radar on the back, and then we have the tank headlights on the front, because of course we do. I was considering using the fold-away ones, like the Miata eyes. What are they called? Eye socket, yeah. But like the aesthetic when folded up doesn't quite match. So even though it is kind of cooler to have it like that, I mean, it's literally a tank headlight. Like, it fits the aesthetic because it's made to work with it. So like, yeah, just stick with that. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I can talk about for that build. Then we do have a couple of variants for the quote-unquote Fury. So we have one that was meant to be a little bit more combat viable. So running a single Raijin and then having the generator in theory powering all the hardware, but in reality the Raijin is high enough energy and the carapace is low enough energy that you do need the generator to also use the gun, so if you lose that, you're hooped. But in any case, I shortened the build up a little bit. Not super happy with the top of it, to be honest, but like compared to what it was, I think it's a little bit better. And we do have, you know, those power score limitations, so if I want to use it in ClanCon, my options are kind of limited. So big ass icebreaker plow on the front. Running the Geagle still, because even though we don't need the speed from it, weapon perk works great with the Goliaths. Raijin mounted on top, of course. Have our hardware, which now includes some more that literally weren't even in the game or that I didn't have beforehand. Hit that 25. And then we've got our hardware. So I'll note that the, like, technically the connection points for the Goliaths are a little tight because we have this 6x4 on the front. I'm like, okay, well, I can't just have it attached to the 6x4, which is directly behind what I think people are going to shoot at. So I added this 1x8 at the back, which again, like, not any one single of these parts are very likely to survive just due to where they're placed and where I think people are going to shoot, but hopefully by having, you know, two frames touching each Goliath, there's that redundancy that it should be okay. And then we have the hardware tucked underneath, which isn't really anything super fancy, but I'll note that it doesn't have a radar, even though that's what I normally like having in especially, you know, the ClanCon bracket. But sort of a you can't win them all thing, plus I mean, the carapace Raijin combo is honestly already terrible for energy economy, so there's that version. And then I did also, I was kind of thinking the Raijin, it works because it's a single cannon turret weapon build combination. Like it fits perfect for this purpose. However, again, viability wise, the energy is a little rough. So I went and I made one that probably performs even worse, but I can't test it because I don't have a Mastodon. But being able to save I guess we know right then, the blueprint and share it and even throw it up on the exhibition without him is pretty baller. So I got to give them to that with the new blueprint changes. I mean, there's some things to complain about, but I think they handled that pretty well. So we have some more hardware tucked underneath. There's still those 1x8 frames up to the hardware because, well, if we're only spending 12 energy on the weapon, we can afford to drop the generator and then pour it into those hardware that we otherwise wouldn't have. And for the 10K bracket, I was even able to fit in the flocks at the back, which again, they aren't particularly well protected. No, I don't know, anything you change, but no guarantee that'll work. And in fact, having the single Mastodon, which is like thrice the hitbox size as the Raijin, even though it's technically slightly more durability, it means that this thing is going to get stripped a hell of a lot faster. But I can theoretically run it in uranium and have flock. which is pretty nice. So I know, like, technically it's a KV2 series something, whatever, turret. It's not a World War I tank, but I mean, I designated them as World War I, World War II tanks, and I can't think of anything more clever to use with the, like, 16 character limit, since I'm not going to change their name from Stampede or Fury. So, just suffer if you're a military buff, I guess. But, yeah, it's a World War II thing anyway, but I mean, the other one is literally, the Raijin is a made-up, like, friggin' particle accelerator. So, you know, we're taking a little bit of liberties, but it fits roughly with the aesthetic, I think. So, yeah, 2 variants for that. I think I could technically throw all 3 up. I'm gonna have to take down some other things, my not very popular other contest builds, but that's fine. I might throw the spider one up after. They very explicitly say in the instructions for this contest, do not put it on the exhibition because it might get yoinked. And, like, technically, you could just make claims like, oh, obviously that's a copy of mine, but the headache of it, I think it's fair for them to say, just don't do it. And then we'll deal with whatever few ones slip through the cracks, because I know there was at least one other one that tried to submit my build for the well-rounded, for the pumpkin contest with those characters at the front, as mentioned at the beginning of the stream, which is how they sometimes do contests, namely the Discord ones instead of the Clash of Engineers. But yeah, I don't really think there's much point in holding on to these older versions, but can just do a quick scrub around. So if I need to refer to it, or if anybody wants to, like, rebuild them themselves in the future, should be fine. Then we will replace them. But yeah, this one is specifically super, super old. Like, I literally had a whirl in this front package area. So I moved the cabin back, had the whirl, and then tacklers in front. And that was one of, like, the earliest builds I was using in, like, epic tier weaponry in the, like, 8,000 power score. So, kind of sucks, kind of, to get rid of it. But also the tacklers have been ass for years. And the tackler elephant combination isn't good in general. So I'm sure I have screenshots and clips somewhere anyway. Not a huge deal. And, like, the newer versions are just, like, they look better and they are probably going to perform better. So throw this up for, oops. It is a, let's see, it is functional, so we could say PvP. Let's see, is it high durability? Like, we don't have the averter attached to the gun, just because attaching the gun directly to the carapace cabin means that if I want to use that, like, built-in sort of, like, turret ring on the top for the center of the gun, I can't really fit an averter vertically without shifting it off center, and I really did like where the carapace is as far as, like, the center of the build. This lines up, so it's like, you know, a viability concern. Likewise, I didn't even run the averter connected to the gun, which is, again, it's massive, and it doesn't have a whole lot of damage output as a single weapon build, but the averter is attached to, like, a bunch of hardware in the frames of the back anyway, so it's like, it's not terrible, but I think this will function better as long as, you know, nobody pops you gen. So we are going to say, what is it? It is a cannon, it is an art build. I want to call it durable, I want to call it maybe PvP. I like not having the redundancy of having a PvP tag and an art build tag, so even though it is primarily an art build, like, it is functional. You could use it in PvP. It is also kind of durable. It doesn't have super high durability for the power score, but it's decent. I think we'll probably call it a durable cannon. PvP. Not like the other one's likely to be any different, but then I can delete that. can throw the Stampede up. Interesting that I can't use the cannon tag for it, but of course they're in the cryogenic weapon category, and the cryogenic weapon category does not have cannons as a sub definer, so I think this is gonna let me throw it up. Is there better? Is there an M word? It's a synonym with Fury that I can use. Whatever, we're just gonna be lazy and call it the Fast Fury, Mast Fury. Lamau. And that is a, believe it or not, durable cannon. I guess I could also say close combat cannons, but you can snipe specifically with the elephants fairly well, so. Like I said, I could also add the art build. Oh, I can't upload it. Well, that's awkward. I did like all of this beforehand and didn't see an issue, but I hadn't actually tried publishing it. So that is awkward, so I'm gonna ask somebody else to they also changed this UI like literally this past update. Very interesting, not hating it. Cool, well I guess that solves the question of how many we're gonna throw up on the exhibition. Well, do you also have the factory strider, which like I've gone over all like literally every single one of these builds in the prior stream, I believe, but would want to rebuild this with the driver now that we have those legs as an option, but I don't have 4 unless they happen to be purchased 2. So yeah, but somebody did throw up another. Let's see if it's even on the exhibition still. It's probably been longer than a week, but somebody did make another factory strider. In my opinion, it wasn't as faithful, but it got a lot more upvotes, which is generally what happens when you actually share your thing with others rather than post it on the exhibition and leave it. Let's see, I think they got the name different too. Oh, my A key's acting up again. I don't know why it does that on this keyboard. It's me pressing the A key. When I hit the Q key a couple times. There we go. Pretty sure it was, yeah, just factory strider, and then they posted it with the link of, it's not either of these. Helldivers strider, maybe? Something like that. I don't know what it's called, but you can just do the part search instead, because she'll be up there. There we go. Yeah. I don't like having already made one myself. I don't like this at all, but other people liked it. And to be fair, it did include the miniguns as well as a cannon. Apparently I have a phone call from my sister. Obviously not her talking about how much she loves my stream right now. But she could probably... Wait a sec. Oh, there we go. I have quick responses on that. Well, I've never denied a phone call with the quick responses before, but that's good. Anyway, pretty much covers like the stream being done anyway. Yeah, so I was saying like the actual, we still don't have a cannon that actually matches the factory strider. It would be like the MBT tank turret cannon that everybody's been pining for years, and like the Raijin is closer to it. It's not quite. The compiler looks the part almost. If it were like an 8x8 instead, I think it would be perfect, but of course then it would be a single weapon, 24 energy sort of thing, and that's not the way they went with it. So unless they plan on adding like another larger version of the compiler in the near future, which seems unlikely. Don't think it's going to work. So I think the Rygen's still probably the closest option we have for that. And then, of course, I have all my ClanCon builds and my active trial builds, but I don't think there's any other here that I haven't talked about in the power stream. So if you're interested in any of those, check that out, I guess.